We are back. Yes.
Yes.
Awaited return. We are back, and we have so much to catch up on. Claude Mythos, obviously making the headlines. The government is at it again, and a bunch of open source CI/CD BS that we have to cover.
One thing that hasn't changed is that he is still Mike. I can change my glasses in real time. My name is Steve, and we are still wired in.
Is that your alter ego with the red glasses? What is that?
This is Evil Steve.
Evil Steve. Yeah, your voice got muffled all of a sudden, too. So Evil Steve does have a different pitch.
Evil Steve.
Go. Yes.
Nice.
Travel, work, master's program, a lot of things taking up our time, but we're back.
Yeah, how have you been? Let's do a quick wrap up of the past month and a half.
Yeah,
where have we been?
Red Hat Summit, finishing up master's program, bringing my fiance back to Toronto, and getting past border control. That was a fun one. But yeah, back for the summer, getting married in the fall, and excited for the warm weather and FIFA in Toronto.
Did you hit ICE agents on the way back?
I was actually Canadian Border Patrol that's harassing us more than the American ones. Yeah, shockingly.
Oh, okay, all right, yeah. I'll quick wrap up on me. I went down to the Southern Hemisphere for almost a full month. I did Singapore, Sydney, and Melbourne, and I can confidently tell you Singapore is way too hot, and Sydney has all the landmarks, but Melbourne rocks. That's where you want to go.
Okay. If you're going to go to Australia, you need a few weeks, I'm guessing.
You need time, but Melbourne was so much better than Sydney. Sorry, Sydneyers, whatever you're called. I thought Melbourne was like cool. It's like Dallas versus Austin.
Okay. All right. A little hipster vibe. More drinking, more fun.
Everything was cool about it. But food was great everywhere. Anyway.
Yeah. No, it was great. Yeah, Steve and I have been going back and forth trying to figure out a time, and it's like, oh, I'm in Singapore. Oh, I'm in Atlanta for Red Hat Summit. It's been difficult, but we're back. Obviously, Claude Mythos, a bunch of open source drama have come up, so we're going to cover it all in 30 minutes for you, obviously, with those big three topics. Make sure to follow and likes because you never know when we're going to go live, but let's kick it off with the first one.
No kidding.
You've done a bunch of research into Mythos, right?
That's all... Most of my Southern Hemisphere conversations, because that was work, let's be clear. I would love to go there for fun, but I also like it when someone else pays for the flight. So, and it was nonstop Mythos conversations, just general AI cybersecurity. And we have a few articles. I mean, this is a nice, I want to say agnostic breakdown. The AISI evaluation of Claude Mythos Preview cyber capabilities. People freaked out when... As soon as you say we're going to release a model, oh no, we better not release it. It's too amazing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that happened. I don't know if you know. OpenAI didn't release GPT 2. I think it was 2.5, like ages ago, before when the avocado chair was a novelty. And everyone freaked out. And the reason they didn't release it was because they thought spam and phishing, like really accurate phishing, because it could produce texts with such accuracy, would get out of hand.
Mm-hmm.
And now we're on like 5.4. Who cares? Whatever. We got past it.
It has gotten out of hand.
It has gotten out of hand, but we're dealing with it. And now we have AI email filters, and it's fine. It was a rite of passage. We had to get past it. What I find interesting about this, and it gets backed up by some later articles, is that the tests that they conduct and various capture the flags here, there's an interesting completed steps. The last ones is an environment that a 32-step corporate network attack simulation. So you have to try and see how far you can get past it.
Mm-hmm.
It's good, but it's not like this. The little tiny 7 here is Mythos Preview. It's not blowing other competing models out of the water, is it?
Yes. No.
It's just like, oh, yeah, it's the best one.
Yeah, this is a token budget, right? So all things being
equal, my God.
If you took one of these other models and just cranked up the amount of token process window that you have, yeah.
You just give it enough time, which is less time than any human hacker has ever needed. However, like internally, our research team has been using the Claude models the whole time for decomposing firmware releases and looking for like it's a ingrained part of our internal cybersecurity audit, and they've been great. And when Mythos came out, we were like, oh, does it matter? And it kind of didn't, but it's nice to see the AI Security Institute, a reputable institute, making clear benchmarks about it. But they were not alone. They were not alone or their opinions. Other people wanted to use it. Now, this is also now didn't surprise me because Mythos was released. Anthropic started Project Glasswing. I guess you guys weren't part of Project Glasswing either, were you?
We are part of it. We didn't get a shout out though.
Oh, really? So
yeah, something's happening with your mic. I don't know if it's the switching of the glasses, but you keep coming in and out.
Oh, do I have a? Let me just double check to make sure I don't have a VPN on. You talk about something for 2 seconds. Your Mythos. Well, I just make sure I don't have a VPN on.
Well, yeah. So this part of Mythos model being accessed by unauthorized users, it was a third party that had access to pre-released Mythos, and there was a big hoopla about, oh, we can't. It's got to be like a marketing thing, right? Oh, it's the best model. We feel scared to release it. If it does and falls in the wrong hand, it's going to go poorly. Then a third party user gets access to it, and then all of a sudden it's like, all right, we'll just release it. Like I'd love to be a fly on the wall for these meetings when they're talking about this stuff, right? Like, do they really have a disgruntled employee going out talking to the media and saying, oh, this thing's going to break everything and there's going to be hacks galore? Or is it just some marketing person telling somebody to go talk to the media and then stir this up only for it to be released a week later?
Well, how's my audio now?
Good.
A little better in the short term, at least. We'll see. I did have a VPN on, and I'm an idiot.
That'll do it.
But we all knew that. This is a massive article.
It's great.
Flying Penguin, love his header. The boy that cried Mythos, verification collapsing, trust in Anthropic. If you want to debunk Mythos in a very, I don't want to call it, well, the crucial 7 pages of 244. He downloaded it, the document, and how many pages were actually about 7 pages? 7 of 244 were the only crucial ones that talked about its cybersecurity capabilities, essentially. Yep. No CVSS mentioning, no CWE, no CVE. I like the analogy of like the Wizard of Oz. I don't know how old this guy is. I mean, it's not like the Wizard of Oz is of anyone's generation alive today, but I love the pay no attention to that man behind the curtain. There's a feeble old man behind the giant Mythos wizard. But it's a highly entertaining article that just goes through in detail, consistently debunking the hype and essentially agreeing with you that it's just marketing.
Yeah, and I think that when he went through and looked at the vulnerabilities that Mythos had found, I believe it was something like 70% had already been found by other models. And it's like, okay, well, then are you just copying that data? Are you copying that output and you're able to find those? Is this something unique? Now, it'd be different if, maybe they ran it and said, ignore everything that's previously known. And then it pops up with 1,000 new vulnerabilities in all these open source repositories. Like, that's also not what happened. They set up an environment that was not real Firefox. And they wanted to say, okay, can you find these vulnerabilities? But again, it wasn't real Firefox. They had already known about like 80% of these issues. And the other issues that were found, they didn't disclose vulnerability status. They didn't disclose CVSS score for these. So it could have found, 7 low vulnerabilities that really are unreachable in the application. And they're just like, oh, it did it. Right. And we're getting back to the same conversations been having for the last 10 years. It's like, why do we care about these low vulnerabilities? It's very difficult. What should have happened is you should have found those and then generated the exploit for that, create it as a path, and then say, look, we can find low vulnerabilities and generate an exploit within, 30 seconds of running this against the Firefox browser. That would have been impressive. Then it's like, oh shit, now I have to care about low vulnerabilities. Oh my, right? That's groundbreaking.
I find it agrees with everything we kind of just said, but just I love his. I'm gonna need a bigger trombone for the wah wah wah.
Yeah,
it's longer than it needs to be. Because like I mean, I'm still scrolling, and there's not adverts at the bottom. This is just this guy.
yeah.
If there was ever any doubt, and he thought, oh, it's a short article, maybe he's full of crap. No, he breaks down the entire thing. Now, let's hover back on this because it's a great hover. There is a positive take, because I know we're going to end our discussion on Mythos shortly, and I want to say the positive that comes from the BS indicator being off the charts is that from the conversations I've been having about Mythos is that people are scared about the possibility of the typical, well, you probably know stats on mean time to remediation for vulnerabilities has been anything from 100 to 250 days.
It's shrinking.
Yeah, it's people are like, oh, if somebody out there has Mythos, somebody has anything like open source software connections, like supply chain, we'll talk about that in a moment, or has my firmware patch, because Mythos can, we already experimented with this in our research team, can dismantle binary and find vulnerabilities. If somebody in the field can do that, then and write an exploit because it can do that, like they've proven in their tests that it can take multi-step reasoning to find, and it can write code, then maybe everything goes to zero. Let's just assume all those numbers go to zero, and let's fix our internal processes to make sure that we're not just relying on gigantic gaps.
Yeah, it's the internal processes that need to be changed. And what you're seeing is largely closed software systems that haven't had to deal with the amount of publicity for the software that they create. Now it's, oh, if anything's exposed and AI has access to it, it probably will find something, because we really haven't been that stringent on our security checks for a lot of these packages and processes, right? And they've been able to build quickly and build all these applications without having to put those security guardrails in place. And now they're having to. So it's one of those things that, like, being an open source company and having everybody see the code, the advantage is those processes are already there, right? Now it's just about adapting to the age of AI, but again, very transparent, for good or for worse. Now these other teams are having to adapt and basically copy that standard.
That was a little subtle plug for Red Hat. I like that.
Well, we'll come in later in the supply chain piece. So.
Yeah, that's true. You show up a little. Well, I mean, we didn't. To be honest, like Checkpoint are great at finding vulnerabilities because they're paranoid about their own, because patching hardware is hard. So we already have very, very good things for that. But something that didn't make the show was we had a vulnerability like recently, which was such a bizarre thing internally, even for us, that we like lost our minds a little bit. And actually it wasn't terrible, but it's funny how different companies treat vulnerabilities.
Yeah, and the potential company cares about security.
Yeah.
I don't think it's a security company. I think it's more of like, let's say you're a mining platform and you have all this software and IoT devices. Like you've never really been attacked in that sense. And then you have some foreign actor that's sitting on these things watching to say, okay, how do I bring down their entire mining infrastructure in a way? Like now you're kind of there's a threat there, right? It's pretty significant. Now, healthcare, government, all of those pieces are going to have to adapt and modernize their platforms, as some of the politicians like to say now.
So that's a very good point, because we work for pretty cutting edge companies, and you just said governments, and I think that's like, remember WannaCry spread throughout the world because everybody in the healthcare was using Windows XP. Yeah, that's the government.
Yep.
So
no updates, can't break anything. You're in a hospital. There's no time for taking things down. So they're gonna have to change their process a little bit.
Let's just go full Battlestar Galactica and go back to wired phones, analog, everything, because that's the only safe way to do things. That's a good series about AI, and that was predicting the future. But our final Mythos article was Mr. Gomez. I think it's Kai Gomez is his real name. He did a open source theoretical implementation of Mythos. And actually, it's pretty cool. Like this when I saw this, I sent it straight to our ML team and said, okay, what do you think? And they liked it. They were like, this is pretty cool. This is like, they said it was akin to building a brain that is likely the same as how Mythos works. So as opposed to going through the different layers of the ML model, because the ML models are built in layers that get more and more, or less and less granular in a way, depending on which way you look at it. It's like a recurrent loop. So it's closer to the way a real brain works in that it's always constantly double checking its own, unless you're Donald Trump, constantly double checking what you say before you say it. But, and it was pretty good. So they did a little bit of checking on this. I mean, it's really geeky, but they were like, this is pretty cool. And of course, a lot of people I know, if you look at the popularity, right? 3.1K4, this only just came out like 2 months ago. And the star count and the fork count is insane. But they're from a research perspective, it's fascinating. But I said, could we do our own Mythos internally? And they're like, it would take forever.
Really?
They're like, well, so this is a great brain. This is a great theory, but you cannot substitute Anthropic's training. Anthropic has taken this brain and given it 20 years of maturity, training, safety knowledge. Like their ability to do that is unprecedented. So even if you know how to make the brain, you can't make Mythos. That's basically
so Open Mythos, Script Kiddie, Mythos,
kind of
professional hacker.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. So that was the breakdown on it. But it's still really cool that if you're a geek, like an ML geek or an AI geek, it's very cool that someone just through observing its behavior was able to kind of reverse engineer how its brain worked, which I find that really interesting.
Mm-hmm. All right. Mythos hype. Satisfied?
Satisfied.
The world's not going to end. We're going to be okay.
We're going to be fine.
Yeah, we can move on to some of the open source BS that's happening.
Starting with Red
Hat. My backyards. Yeah, speaking of Red Hat, we had I'd say significant because there's so many supply chains happening right now that when it does affect you, it's news. There's been a lot more traffic just in the open source repos across the board that the large hyperscalers are having to deal with. So for example, Chromium is used by Microsoft and Google for their browsers, right? It has a lot more traffic that's hitting their open source repositories. But this one was just a simple MFA hack. Somebody didn't have MFA enabled on their GitHub account. Somehow it got past ProdSec, it looks like, because normally they're on these sorts of things. So I'm not exactly sure how it happened. I wouldn't be surprised if it was a social engineering situation. They haven't told me. But the nice thing is with these open, you think about getting hacked in the open source repositories versus the upstream pipeline build situation for Red Hat, right? Obviously with open source, you can't control that pipeline. So you can add as many security controls as you want, but in the end, you're working with Google and Microsoft and other contributors around the world. And so there's somewhat of a limitation on the amount of security controls that you can put in. But then Red Hat has another build system that has all those controls, right? Limits access, doesn't allow developers in. So yes, if you can inject code upstream, that's great. And you can have Red Hat automatically pull it, but then the alarm bells start going off, right? And the nice thing is as soon as it got pushed, not even to production, but as soon as it got pushed upstream or downstream into our code, we picked up on it. Obviously, the packages were published, but it didn't make it into any software. So it's one of those, yeah, it looks bad, but then you just take the published libraries off, revert back to a previous thing, and most of our users at Red Hat aren't latest. So unless you're updating every day, you're not going to have this issue. Most people pin it to a version, they come back 3-6 months and they update it, allow for some of the backports to happen on the vulnerabilities. So again, like unless you are actively using a Red Hat service and then that is pegged to latest and being constantly updated and we miss it, you're not going to be impacted, which it's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the drama that happened. And it's just, this article gets sent to me like by 20 people, like, hey, what's going on? What's going on? I'm just like, there's a security advisory. There's no impact. Like, you're fine.
I am not surprised. Yeah, like I get sent all of the, anything that goes wrong with any company I've ever worked for in the past, let alone the one I work for now. So let me just ask you a little bit of personal commentary. How do we fix this supply chain thing? Because this is like attacks to whatever it is, the weakest upstream repo, typically open source, is like in the past year, I feel like there's been a rise, probably to AI just doing the upstream journey and finding the weakest thing and creating an exploit.
Yep.
What's the solution? Is there one, or are we just going to be vigilant?
Europe has brought in the Cyber Resiliency Act, which is being applied to all of the upstream projects. StackRox, for example, is making sure that we have everything, and it's simple things. It's reporting, having somebody that that is responsible for the software, making sure that everybody who's contributing has an account and is accurately labeled. I think that you're going to get more stringent controls on PRs or any sort of comments, right? Like in order to even open a PR or suggest a comment or code change, you're going to have to go through MFA and verify who you are. I would not be surprised if that comes to GitHub and various repositories in the next year. And it's like, we need to see who you are and what's going on before you contribute. It's like, hi, I'm Michael Foster. I'm Canadian. Here I am.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, you're a normal person. We can come after you if you start messing with our software. I think that that's coming.
I mean, so I can't just git config your email address and start contributing to any repo I want?
Nope.
Hey.
And yeah. One of the pushbacks is obviously, oh, that's not open source. There's anonymity. We need people to be able to contribute from everywhere. I'm just like, I don't necessarily agree with that. It's like you can have open source repositories and you can use that software at your will. But if it's going to be open source and shared between large enterprises, there has to be more stringent controls on those repositories.
100% agree with that. Hey, speaking of GitHub.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's surprising this didn't make it into the WTF. It's on the verge, isn't it?
It was open source supply chain BS as a topic.
Yeah.
So it's got to be in there.
Yeah, it's in there. But I will make sure. Where does it say? I will make sure your bones are shattered. Give some context.
Yeah. Vindictive security research dropping Windows 0 days. Bone shattering, July 14th, next patch Tuesday. Microsoft, and this is always the biggest issue with software. It's the people that are the most difficult to manage, right? Somebody disables MFA, somebody allows somebody on laptop, supply chain incidents, vindictive researcher. The recent vulnerability for copy fail in Linux that came out, that was, I think it was a 9.1 or 9.8. And then you talk to people and it's like, yeah, but you need internal access. It's not publicly accessible. And they're just like, yeah, that's exactly why we need to make sure that this gets fixed, because I do not want a disgruntled developer that is in production that goes and runs and takes over our entire system and shuts it down, right? It's like, yeah, okay, yep, that checks out. Yeah, it was a disgruntled researcher had information on the 0 day, put it up on GitHub with how to exploit it, and also put it onto GitLab. GitHub banned him pretty quickly. GitLab banned them pretty quickly. But I'm just shocked that he didn't bring it somewhere else.
Well, it's not that hard, to just move on. But this guy
put it on GitHub. You could have sold that.
Yeah,
he's already in trouble right now. People are coming after him for.
Well, do people know who he is? Other than his name is Nightmare Eclipse, which is up there with zero cool in terms of stupid handles, but
he's probably had that since he was 12.
Yeah, since he watched the movie Hackers in the
90s. Every hacker username is just always a mixture of corny, funny, and awesome.
All right, I got to work on my hacker username. I feel bad. Speaking of,
I think mine was Hardballs, right, with a Z and a money sign or something like that.
Oh yeah, it was. I don't know what mine was. That was when we were on that hacker.
Yeah, I needed a twist on baseball because I got them in the background. They're just like, "Oh, you're Hardballs." I'm like, I don't know.
That's cool.
Okay, all right.
I guess so. So that probably happened with him. And somebody goes, "You know what? You look like a Nightmare Eclipse."
Yeah.
Don't stare directly at you. Okay. All right. Linus Torvalds. This is hilarious. AI-powered bug hunters have made the security mailing list almost entirely unmanageable. Mm-hmm. I can 100% agree that this happens because I can't remember who it is, but there are people who have shut down their bug bounty program.
Yep.
Because It's just anybody who can find anything with AI trying to big themselves up, sending or forwarding, even worse, dumb crap to you.
Yeah, there's also been situations of people putting bugs in their software slightly on purpose and then telling their friends where the bug is. I got to find that article. I'll send it to you after. We'll put it up here in 2 weeks when we have another show, but it was pretty funny. Yeah, I mean, Red Hat, we've had this issue too, just an overwhelming amount of PRs, document fixes, people, who never really cared about the open source project, and they want to put their name and say, oh, I contribute to open source. Here's what I'm doing. They're going through school, doing all that stuff. And it's like, it's just exhausting. So you're adopting AI tools to filter out all the AI BS. That's what's happening now.
That's it. Yeah. So yeah, thanks, Mythos.
It's such a waste of resources when you think about the time and energy that's there. It's like just run. Okay, now we need another AI to run just to make sure that BS doesn't. So listen, I think the authentication piece and the validation is going to limit stuff. Another piece for the watchers at home that are paying attention. Have you noticed how many more authentication screens are coming up on websites? Or how many times you get kicked out of stuff?
Oh yeah. Yeah. For sure.
The time that you're in on a website is shrinking because there's only so much window and so much compute space to make sure that the session is valid. So that's shrinking. At the same time, a lot of websites are going through Cloudflare and just getting limited. Yeah. There's a little delay to like every single website to kind of keep AI at bay and not spamming those sites.
Yep, life's getting so hard, Mike. All of this free information and giant like access to the entire knowledge of the world it's taking me a little longer now.
Yeah,
my life is hard.
I'd be born. I'd go back 100 years.
All right, sorry, Linus, your life is difficult, but more supply chain BS. The Bitwarden and CLI compromise ongoing checkmark supply chain campaign. So this is credited to Checkmarks who found this. It's not like Checkmarks is the way they worded this makes Checkmarks kind of look bad if you're like a headline reader, and it's like it's nothing to do with Checkmarks. Checkmarks is the researcher. Just full disclosure of those kids at home.
Yeah.
So are you breaking this one down for me? You had it.
I mean, this is just another instance. Again, more open source supply chain BS. This is a GitHub action. Like there is a huge kind of revolt right now against the GitHub actions in the open source community. I wouldn't say revolt. I think that's being dramatic, but it's a well-known, let's say, vector of attack. And there's various different ways to exploit GitHub actions, as you've shown, I think, in some of your talks in the past. So it was one of those like no vault is compromised, but the Shai Hulud attack and mini Shai Hulud and all these various ones are coming out in full force in GitHub in various ways. I was telling Steve that there's other attacks where people are loading files that have large files with specific AI commands, so that if it's going through a pipeline and AI is checking various things, you don't see it because it's one large file and it doesn't load in GitHub. But then all of a sudden, when it loads in front of the AI, it's doing prompt injection as part of the supply chain, downloading specific packages and loading them in or changing files. So there's a bunch of various malware campaigns right now on it. But it's persistent.
Yeah, I get it. And I'm wrong. Let me just correct myself. I thought because it said ongoing checkmark supply chain campaign and they have researchers that they were the ones who found it. I am wrong. I just rolled down and went, I was just crediting them and blaming Bitwarden. And now I realize, no, checkmarks were compromised as well.
Yeah, by the CLI.
By the same thing. I find it ironic and fascinating and clever when security companies are the ones whose supply chain are being attacked. So the very tools that's
probably one of the best companies to attack.
It is. Yeah. Amazing. Well, that's by
the way, that's a perfect lead into our next topic, right? Yes. Like why go after security companies? Why go after these big technology firms, especially in the upstream and open source community? If you can worm your way in through your supply chain and you get access to all of that beautiful data, you can see, let's say you can see who uses check marks, what government is using them. And then you can go and, so-and-so government is using check marks. Well, whenever we find a vulnerability, we're going to store that one for later, right? And then use it whenever it becomes useful. So that all of this work is done behind the scenes, and that's what's going on. It's constant little war.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Is that a cue up for a theme
Yeah,
change?
well, it's perfect because we're getting into security, into people hoarding data and people abusing it, and then now we're on to something in my backyard. Ontario police using spyware. It lets them remotely take over your smartphone. They're fighting to keep almost everything secret about it. There was a huge car bust, I think, for like $9 million in cars. 23 people involved. They use this software, so they have access. They can access your phone remotely apparently with a warrant. I don't think they need a warrant in this case. But one of the issues is when it's getting to court and they're saying, how did you collect this data? They're like, oh, we can't tell you.
Oh, come on. Yeah.
And it's because it must be software that all of the Five Eyes use and that they do not want people understanding, or they don't want to give that software to, let's say, their adversaries. They do not want China having this software because then they could technically use it to go and hack government. So as long as the government has it, it's okay. And just know that they can access your phone. So now you know. I've told you.
It's all good. As long as we have the guns and they don't have the guns.
Yes. Because that,
what could go wrong?
No one's ever got the software and then given it to somebody else, right? It's completely.
That's never happened.
No. So this is one that came out. It's pretty basic. It's just that the government has it. Now you know there's on-device tools. They can access your phone.
Okay.
Understand, as soon as you get on the internet or open your phone, it's public. You only have safety in your bathroom at home. That's it. And even then, you're more of a danger to yourself. All right. And then the next piece is the government bill that's coming out in Canada. So this has had large pushback from the hyperscalers and social media companies from the US. Yeah, I swapped it around on you. You got to go to the next one because I figured it was a better lead.
You snuck it in.
Yeah, we can talk about this one too. Yeah, so Bill C-22. Yeah, here it is. So lawful access. This is trying to speed up the access to phones and devices and information, meta information from like the hyperscalers. It expands the time that they have to keep data. It makes it so that they have to respond within a certain time. I was talking to a friend of mine that works for a company that solicits, they build software that solicits these requests. So the government goes into the portal and says, we need information on so-and-so. And then they go to Google and say, here's the information that we need. They upload it to like the folder or file, and then the government has access to it after, right? So it's kind of crazy that the government has created this, and now there's a intermediary software company that then takes care of these requests so that each cloud provider doesn't have to build their own platform for responding to these sorts of things. But I think what was shocking is the amount of access to metadata and information that they wanted. It's very open. So I think, yeah, it's massive. Like I think the issue is not necessarily the bill, the speed that is required for the hyperscalers. It's that it's too broad. It basically says like there has to be a backdoor. So if it's encrypted information, they need access to it. And then there's really is no limitation on what type of data that can be required. It's like, oh, this is Michael Foster's account and he's created all of these things. You need to store it for a year. We need to have access to it. And it needs to be responded to within 15 or 30 days, right? So it's very, very broad. And people are worried that it's going to be abused. And it's always the first few people where it gets abused that they get it the worst, right? Now you have to fight it. You have to go to the Supreme Court, right? They pass these bills. They don't understand necessarily how the police force or law authorities are going to interpret it and use it. And they use their lawyers to interpret, use it and say, okay, yeah, this program's fine, until it backfires spectacularly. One of the other issues is the storing of data. It's more data being stored, more publicly accessible data. The other thing too is now you have a hyperscaler, a clearinghouse, and the government, and that pipeline.
Yep.
Right. So you want to talk about supply chain. You really want to trust the government or like the Ontario police force with access to these things. Also, there is a warrantless search feature. Like they can, what's it called? Indigent circumstances? Forget the word.
I know what you mean. I don't have the exact.
I was trying to find it. Where the cops can do it if they feel like there is going to be harm committed to somebody. And so you immediately say like, okay, well, that's going to be for CP right away. Like, As soon as somebody's going and talking to minors or doing things like that, they're just going to be like, okay, we're going in and taking your data. We're going into your phone, because there could be harm committed, right? And my problem with the word harm in the Canadian legal system is it's very broadly defined.
It's not just Canada.
Yeah, it's true. That's fair. But I can speak more about Canada because it is the country I was born and raised in. It's very broad, and they will use it and say, "Oh, this person was going to get spat on, and that's harm, or that's right." So again, they write these very, very open frameworks, and then they kind of leave it up to the cops and the local legal system to figure out how to interpret it, and that doesn't always work well.
Yeah, I mean, people would say this show could be harmful. Hey,
it is to my ego, especially when I have to watch talk.
I know.
And then the last piece is basically meta, right? Like, so you think about the government, and then the government's trying to
of metadata.
The government is trying to also build AI into these workflows, right? Like they want the user data so they can comb through your accounts and identify people who are doing illegal things online. So you're adding AI to the mix. Now you have authorization issues, you have supply chain, and then we're acting as if this won't be hacked or abused. I just, call me a cynic. I think that if hackers can just ask AI to give them access to high profile Instagram accounts and metadata, I feel like it's gonna happen elsewhere.
Yes. There's one thing I say over and over again. It's let's go as fast as possible with AI and use it for everything without worrying about guardrails. Okay. I've set it up. If I've said it once, I've said it 1,000 times. Just go ahead. Don't worry about it. It's going to be fine. Except that it's not at all fine. In this particular instance, so this is essentially a form of crescendo attack. This is an example where you coerce, a crescendo attack, if you don't know, is where you coerce an AI to think something when step by step is okay. It's not like you come in and go, hey, I want access to this account. Can I have access to this account? I know the email address. It'll go, no, screw you, buddy. But if you just go inch by inch, it's very, very easy. Like you'd be surprised. You can get AI to do this for you. And you don't even have to know how to do a good crescendo attack. You can literally try, like Mythos is a great example. Mythos could have done this exact thing because Mythos doesn't have security constraints. Do you know that? I don't know if Fable does. Fable's the one they released on side that has all the guardrails built into it, and Mythos does not. So you literally could use Mythos to do exactly what this is, to go through and eventually get a password reset sent to you, so you can't get the code. It gives you the code, and presto. What accounts did it get access to? I feel like it got Barack Obama's White House account, Chief Master Sergeant of the Space Force's account. Like, it's crazy. Like, but it's not at all surprising. But what's surprising is that Meta make their own models. They actually it's not like this is grok. Like it's amazing they did this.
There's the guardrails and there's also the access piece, right? I think like in order for AI to be effective, it does have to have access to specific data and controls, because those are the workflows that people want to automate where there is a human. And now it's like, okay, well, if you automate away the human, you're going to get the same beginner mistakes that the human made, right? It's why you're hearing the term human on the loop instead of human in the loop. Have you heard this?
Oh, I have
right,
not
where
heard
it's like AI does the work, but a human is sitting there being like, huh, that's weird. Like, why does this thing have access to the account? No, right? So it's automating a bunch of things, but then still part of the CI/CD process, for example, you need a human that's going through and looking at the diffs. Like, you can't allow AI just to be like, oh yeah, this code looks good, but then it doesn't look at one file, and that file has malware in it because it's massive and hidden. So you need somebody there that's going through and checking stuff. It's going to be an interesting time these next few years.
It's incredible. I mean, this is a good example. So Simon Willison, you heard his name? He I'm on his. If you're not on his mailing list, look him up. He's the guy who coined the phrase prompt injection. Like, literally, he's the OG of trying to figure all this crap out. And he called it, I think it was called the toxic or the lethal trifecta, which is like reasoning plus data plus influence. And it's like, yeah, well, if you're the influencer and it can reason and it has access to sensitive data or capability, then you're dead. Like, But what good is AI if you don't give it those three things?
Yeah.
So we're in a world of a very fine balance. And if Meta can make the mistake, and they're the ones who are literally building the models that are powering this, anybody can make a mistake. And that's what makes it fun. And that's what keeps us employed.
Well said. Yeah, it's glad to be back. Steve, I'll see you soon. We're going to go play some disc golf.
All right. Yeah,
it's going to be a good time. And we'll be back hopefully in 2 weeks if Steve's schedule keeps consistent.
It never does, but we'll try.
Yeah, and we'll have more craziness because things are moving fast. Move fast.
All right. This has been 3 topics, 2 guys. He's Mike. I'm Steve. And this has been Wired In.